In this video we'll show how you can work with Git and GitHub directly from a Alpha Anywhere web project. So you can see here we have a simple web project open, and this is the web control panel. And currently this web project is not a Git repository. So let's go ahead now and click on the Git icon over here. And let's go now and turn this into a Git repository. We could also clone an existing Git repository into this folder. You can only do that if it's a brand new folder and there are no existing files in the folder. So we're going to go ahead here and say yes, make a Git repository. And you can see that as soon as we do that, we basically get a new toolbar underneath the main toolbar showing us that this is currently a Git repository, and that currently there are two files that have been added to the repository, but they've not yet been committed to the repository, and there are no files that are currently untracked. So let's go ahead now and commit these two files to our repository. So we'll do that by either clicking on the Git menu over here or clicking on this icon, this modified files line. So we'll go ahead there and click the Git commit button. So we can see here that there are two files that have been added to the repository, but they haven't yet been committed. So we'll go here and type in our message here. So initial commit, and every time you commit to a repository you have to specify a message, which is really good because you can then go back to the repository history and see the comments associated with each commit. And then we select the files that we want to commit, so we'll go ahead and commit those two files. So this is our component UX customers, and this is the git ignore file. So this is the file that tells Git which files in your project you don't want to track. So we'll go ahead there and click commit, and now basically there's our initial commit is completed, and now modified files goes down to 0. If we go now and make a change to this component, let's go there and just basically maybe move that field down and then save it, and then go back here. We see now that we have modified files is 1, and then we can go back. We can either click over there, or we can click on the button over there, and we can see that this file was now modified, and we'll say made a change, and then commit that to the repository, and there we go ahead and we've committed that file to the repository. Now at this stage our repository is a local repository. It's not connected to a remote GitHub repository, so we can't do pushes and pulls. But in the next video we'll show how you can basically create a GitHub repository and then connect this repository to the remote repository so that you can basically go ahead and do pushes and pulls to the remote GitHub repository. Thanks very much for watching. In this video we'll show how you can create a remote GitHub repository and then connect that repository to your local GitHub repository, and then push changes to and from this remote GitHub repository directly from the web project control panel. So let's go ahead here and create a new repository, and we'll just go here and call it Alpha Anywhere Demo 2, and then go ahead now and create the repository. So this gives us the repository that's just been created. Currently it's an empty repository, and now what we want to do is copy this link to the clipboard by clicking this icon over here, so that we can then go and connect our Alpha Anywhere repository to this remote repository. So we'll go back to Alpha Anywhere now, and we have our repository here, our local repository, but we're going to go now and connect it to the remote GitHub repository. So in order to do that we need to go here and register the remote GitHub repository, but before we do that we need to specify the user ID and password on our Git account. So I'm going to go ahead now and do that, and I'll type in my email, and my remote and my password for my GitHub account, and then click OK. And now I can go here and register my remote GitHub repository. So I'll go there and I'll just paste in that URL that I copied off GitHub and then go ahead and click OK. So now basically we've linked our local GitHub repo to the our local Git repo, sorry, to the remote GitHub repo. And if we go back and look at the code here, there are no files currently in this repo. So we're going to go now and we'll say push to GitHub. So now the files are being pushed up to GitHub, and you can see now it was successful. And if we go back to GitHub now, so let's go over to GitHub and refresh this page, and we'll see here are the two files that we committed to GitHub. So this is now a GitHub repo, and I can basically make changes on my local GitHub repo, my local Git repo, and then push them up. So let's go now and add in, say, a new component. So we'll go there and then we'll just save it as, say, UX2. Go ahead now and click the save button, and now we can see that we have one untracked file. So we'll click the Git icon and we'll start tracking this file UX2, and I'll call it added UX2 will be my message. Go ahead and hit the commit button, click OK, and now push to GitHub. So there we go, and we're going to go now and push this file to GitHub. And if we go up to our GitHub repo right now and do a refresh, we'll see now that we have two files in the GitHub repo. So what we've shown now is how you can connect a local Git repo to a remote GitHub repo. Thanks very much for watching. In this video we'll show how you can create a new web project in Alpha Anywhere that is a clone of a GitHub repo. So you can see here we're in GitHub, and we've got a repo over here called Alpha Anywhere Demo, and what I'd like to do now is create a new web project in Alpha Anywhere that is a clone of this project. So I'm going to go ahead there and click this clone button, and then I'm going to go here and copy the URL to the clipboard. And now I'm going to go back into Alpha Anywhere, and I'm going to say I'd like to create a new project, and I'll just call this Git Demo 2, and I want this to be a project that is created from a remote GitHub repo. So I'll click this radio button, and then I'll just paste in the URL of the remote repo there, and then I'm going to go ahead now and click OK. So we can see now that the repository is cloned, and there are the files that were cloned from the remote GitHub repo. And you can see now I've got basically a new alpha project called GitHub Demo, and this project is in fact a GitHub repo that has been linked to that remote GitHub repo. And if I make changes here, I can push to GitHub after I enter my user ID and password. So I haven't yet specified the user ID and password for the remote GitHub account. Thanks very much for watching.